I never thought a simple favor could completely upend my life. It started innocently enough. My best friend Sarah called me one afternoon, excitement practically radiating through the phone. "Hey, I need you for something huge," she said, her voice bubbling. "I want you to be my bridesmaid." I laughed, imagining the dresses, the awkward photos, the obligatory planning sessions. "Of course, I'll be there. You know I wouldn't miss it for the world." "Oh, it's not just any bridesmaid," she teased. "I mean the full experience. Hair, makeup, the whole look. I want you to be gorgeous." I smiled, thinking nothing of it. "Sure, I'll do my best." Little did I know that agreeing to look gorgeous would spiral into a transformation I never could have imagined. The first shock hit the very next weekend. Sarah had insisted we go dress shopping together. I expected a few racks, a couple of dresses, maybe some laughing and minor outfit disasters. Instead, we walked into a boutique that seemed more like a high-fashion studio. The attendant, a stylist with sharp eyes and a warm smile, immediately began measuring me, draping fabrics over my shoulders, assessing everything from my posture to the shape of my face. "You're going to need more than a dress," she said softly. "Hair, makeup, nails, every detail matters if you're going to truly transform." I laughed nervously, feeling slightly cornered. "Transform? I'm just a bridesmaid." "Oh, honey," she said, brushing my hair back gently, "you're going to be so much more." By the time Sarah left me in the stylist's capable hands, I was trembling with a mixture of excitement and fear. Soft curls were carefully pinned, my skin highlighted with makeup I barely recognized as me, and the dress, a flowing pale pink gown, hugged my body in ways I had never considered flattering. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and froze. The reflection staring back was not me. It was softer, more delicate, undeniably feminine. My heart thumped painfully as I examined every feature. I barely recognized the shape of my face, the curve of my waist, the gentle sway of the skirt. "Wow," I whispered, almost to myself. "Is that really me?" The days that followed were a dizzying blur. Sarah was thrilled, insisting on photo shoots, fittings, and makeup trials. Each day, I was instructed on posture, expression, and movement. I practiced walking in heels that seemed impossibly high, learned to tilt my chin just so, and to smile in a way that was both inviting and composed. At first, every step was awkward. I stumbled more than once, tripped over my own dress, and blushed furiously at my reflection. Friends and family began noticing subtle changes. "You look different, elegant," my sister remarked one evening. I could barely meet her eyes, mortified at how foreign my own appearance felt. But slowly, I began to adapt. My hands, once clumsy, moved with more purpose. My voice softened, a natural cadence emerging as I experimented with tones and inflections. I began to see a side of myself I had never known, a feminine presence, delicate yet confident, cautious yet daring. Privately, I started experimenting. Alone in my bedroom, I explored my new identity with curiosity and awe. I tried on dresses beyond the bridesmaid theme, experimenting with lengths, fabrics, and colors. I styled my hair differently, tested bold and subtle makeup, and even experimented with my voice, speaking softly into the mirror and listening to the effect. There was exhilaration in the experimentation, yes, but also fear. Each glance in the mirror reminded me how drastically different I looked, and how easily I could be recognized, or not recognized, by people who knew me. Every movement, every gesture became a lesson, a rehearsal in inhabiting this new persona. I discovered the thrill of small victories, a perfectly applied eyeliner, a skirt that flowed naturally, a tilt of the head that felt effortless. With each trial, I felt a strange mix of embarrassment and empowerment, realizing I was enjoying the process far more than I should. The true test arrived at the bridal shower. I stepped out in a flowing pastel gown, hair softly curled, makeup understated yet elegant. As I walked into the room, every eye turned toward me. Compliments flowed like a gentle tide. "You look amazing, absolutely gorgeous. Where did you get that dress?" I felt a rush of adrenaline, a mix of pride and nervousness. The attention was intoxicating, yet disorienting. I caught Sarah's eye across the room, and she winked, clearly proud. Serving drinks and mingling felt like a performance at first, but gradually, I began to inhabit the role. I noticed small shifts in myself. My movements became smoother, my smile more natural, my confidence quietly growing. By the end of the day, I felt a subtle transformation, not just in appearance, but in presence, in poise, in the way I carried myself. Yet, even as I adapted, tension simmered beneath the surface. I worried constantly about being discovered, friends or family recognizing the stark difference, colleagues noticing the change. Could I maintain this new persona outside of controlled settings? Could I reconcile the girl in the mirror with the person I had always been? One evening, Sarah found me alone, staring at my reflection. She smiled knowingly. "You're not just a bridesmaid anymore, are you?" she asked softly. I shook my head, unsure how to articulate the flood of emotions. I don't know. It feels right, but strange. I barely recognize myself. "That's the magic," she said gently. "You're discovering sides of you never knew existed. And honestly, you're beautiful." Her words resonated. For the first time, I realized that the transformation wasn't about her wedding, or even about being a bridesmaid. It was about exploring, accepting, and embracing a part of myself I had never allowed to surface. The climax came during the wedding rehearsal. Walking down the aisle in heels that had once seemed impossible, in a dress that hugged my frame perfectly, I felt every eye on me. Family members whispered, friends complimented, and I could hear my heart pounding, not from fear, but from exhilaration. Then came the ultimate test. A close family friend, who hadn't seen me in weeks, approached. My pulse spiked, nerves tightening. Could I hold it together? Could I maintain the grace I had been cultivating? I smiled softly, extending my hand politely, engaging in conversation with a warmth and elegance I hadn't known I possessed. The praise, subtle and genuine, washed over me. And in that moment, I realized I had internalized the transformation. I was no longer merely acting, I had become her, fully, authentically, with a presence that radiated confidence, femininity, and self-assuredness. After the wedding, I had time to reflect. I looked in the mirror, still in my bridesmaid gown, hair softly falling around my shoulders, makeup perfectly balanced. I saw the journey etched into my posture, my movements, even my gaze. I had started this process as a favor, a simple commitment to a friend, and ended it discovering a side of myself I hadn't known existed. I wasn't just the girl Sarah had wanted at her wedding. I was a version of me, delicate, elegant, confident, and unapologetically feminine. The transformation had given me more than appearance. It had gifted self-assurance, presence, and a quiet power I would carry forward. Now, when I think back to that first phone call, I realize it wasn't just about a bridesmaid dress, or makeup, or a hairstyle. It was about courage. The courage to step into discomfort, to explore, to embrace change, and ultimately, to discover a new layer of identity. And as I slip into a dress now, I do so with confidence, grace, and the knowledge that transformation isn't about pleasing others, it's about unveiling the strength, beauty, and power that has always been inside me. After that first day at the boutique, I felt like I was living in two worlds. One part of me was still the same guy who laughed with friends, played video games, and worried about bills. But another part, an entirely new version, was emerging, delicate and soft, every movement refined, every glance calculated. Alone in my bedroom, I began experimenting more deliberately. I tried on dresses beyond the pastel bridesmaid theme, letting the fabrics flow over me, tracing my fingers along the seams, noticing how different textures pressed against my skin. Lace tickled my arms, silk slipped like water across my legs, and each sensation made my heartbeat flutter nervously. I wasn't just wearing the clothes, I was learning them, memorizing the way they moved with me, feeling how each outfit shaped my posture and presence. I also played with makeup. At first, I was clumsy, eyeliner smudged, blush streaked, lipstick uneven, but slowly I found a rhythm. Every brushstroke became a tiny ritual. Highlighting my cheekbones, softening my jawline with contour, learning to create subtle depth around my eyes, I discovered a satisfaction I hadn't anticipated. In the mirror, I practiced expressions, soft smiles, confident glances, playful looks that hinted at charm without being overwhelming. Sometimes I caught myself practicing my voice. Speaking softly, almost melodically, I would try variations, gentle inflections, subtle pauses, a lilting tone that felt natural. I never realized how different my voice could feel, or how much it could change how others perceived me. Hearing myself speak like that, even alone, was oddly intoxicating. The weekends became my testing ground. Sarah insisted on small public outings, a walk in the park, lunch at a quaint cafe, even a boutique visit for accessories. At first, I was terrified. I could feel every eye on me. Strangers stared, some smiled, some whispered. My hands trembled slightly, and I was hyper-aware of every sway of my hips, every step in heels that still felt alien beneath my feet. But something remarkable happened. With each outing, I grew more comfortable. Compliments came in, small, genuine acknowledgments that made my cheeks warm. "You look lovely," someone said as I passed by. "That dress is beautiful," remarked a barista at the cafe. Each word, each smile, was like a spark, feeding a growing confidence I hadn't expected to feel. By the third outing, I noticed a change in how I held myself. My posture straightened, my shoulders relaxed, my steps became smoother. The nervous flutters in my chest were still there, but they mingled with exhilaration. I realized I was enjoying this, being admired, being seen, being graceful. Evenings were often spent in private experimentation. I would sit by my vanity, swapping dresses, trying new hairstyles, testing different shades of makeup. I experimented with jewelry, earrings, delicate bracelets, rings, watching how each piece transformed not just my appearance, but the energy I projected. I practiced small gestures, brushing hair behind my ear, tilting my head while laughing, the subtle sway of my arms as I walked. These moments were intimate and thrilling, but also unnerving. I was discovering a side of myself that felt entirely foreign yet utterly compelling. Each movement, each glance in the mirror reminded me how far I had come, and how deeply I was falling into this new identity. The true test came during a small pre-wedding gathering. I arrived in a flowing lilac dress, hair curled softly, makeup subtle but polished. Every eye seemed to follow me. Friends whispered compliments, neighbors smiled approvingly, and I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. At first, serving drinks felt like a performance, each step deliberate, each gesture calculated. I stumbled slightly, nerves tangling with excitement, but gradually, the movements became second nature. By the end of the evening, I realized I had internalized the persona. I wasn't just playing the part of a bridesmaid, I had become someone entirely new, delicate, poised, confident, and undeniably feminine. I caught glimpses of myself in reflective surfaces and marveled at the transformation. My posture was graceful, my voice soft yet melodic, my movements fluid. I could feel the subtle power in how I carried myself, the influence of attention, and the intoxicating thrill of self-expression. Yet even as confidence grew, fear lingered. Would anyone recognize the stark difference from who I had been? Could I maintain this new persona outside of controlled settings? What if I wanted to step back? Would that part of me disappear, or had I opened a door that could never be closed? One evening, Sarah found me alone, sitting cross-legged on the bed, staring at my reflection. She smiled knowingly. "You're not just a bridesmaid anymore, are you?" she asked softly. I shook my head, words failing me. "It feels strange. I barely recognize myself." "That's the point," she said gently. "You're discovering a part of you didn't know existed. And honestly, you're beautiful." Her words resonated deeply. For the first time, I realized this journey wasn't about her wedding. It was about exploring and embracing a side of myself I had never known. The transformation had become mine. Over the following days, I practiced subtle interactions, playful conversations, small gestures of care for friends, casual flirtations that felt natural. Each interaction reinforced the new confidence and presence I had cultivated. I began to notice the power of my movements, the impact of my gaze, the influence of my voice. Every compliment, every glance, became a gentle validation of my evolving identity. I discovered that the bridesmaid transformation was only the surface. Beneath it, I had unlocked a confidence that extended beyond appearance. I was learning to inhabit my body, my voice, my energy, with poise and intention. I was learning to embrace attention, to enjoy admiration without guilt or shame. By the time the wedding day arrived, I was fully immersed in this new self. The dress flowed perfectly, hair and makeup were flawless, and I moved through the crowd with grace I never imagined I could possess. Compliments and whispers followed me, but I no longer felt the nerves I had felt at the bridal shower. Instead, I felt grounded, powerful, and present. When a family friend, someone who hadn't seen me in weeks, approached, my pulse quickened. But as I smiled, extended my hand, and spoke with warmth and poise, I realized I had internalized the transformation. I was no longer acting. I was her. Fully. Confidently. Authentically. That evening, as the wedding came to a close and I stood alone for a quiet moment in the garden, I caught my reflection in a pool of water. The girl staring back at me was elegant, delicate, poised, but she was also undeniably me. I had started this journey as a favor, a simple agreement to be a bridesmaid. I had ended it discovering a side of myself I never knew existed, a confident, graceful, feminine presence that was mine to keep. The transformation was no longer about dresses, makeup, or attention. It was about courage, self-discovery, and embracing the beauty of who I could be. And for the first time, I felt truly complete.